And I'm going to put this to full. Nope, wait. Okay. There. And then I'm going to hit go live on Facebook here. And okay. We are live. Do that. The date is August. I don't even know what day it is in August, but it is August of 2020. And the Calgary Flames are the first team in the Western Conference bubble to advance to the official Stanley Cup playoffs, as they have knocked off the Winnipeg Jets tonight with a 4-0 shutout victory behind Cam Talbot, 2 empty net goals, and a bunch of other things. And they will advance to play. We don't know who yet, actually, and we don't know when, but the Calgary Flames are the first to head off. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. We are live on Facebook, facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey as well. Subscribe on iTunes, Spreaker, iTunes, wherever the hell else, Spotify. My brain is barely working here.
Wherever fine podcasts are sold.
Wherever fine podcasts are sold, you can subscribe. Devin is here. Devin probably has mixed emotions, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Devin, how are you?
I'm doing well, Kev. Flames are moving on to the first round of the playoffs, and the Oilers might not be. So today's a great day.
Yes, we'll get into that a little bit later. Matt, how are you?
Oh, it was a good day. Anytime that you see Lucic manhandle somebody and then the Flames win, it's a good day.
Yes, and also joining us today is Dan Stevenson, Matt's partner on the Fireside Podcast. Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Thanks for coming on. We'll get into all the laughing matters of this in a moment, but I want to start. Let's start with the game. So Nathan Beaulieu pulls a Michael Furland, and I'm not, by the way, not insulting Michael Furland when I'm saying this, but I understand what Nathan Beaulieu is trying to do. He's trying to get his team rolling in a pretty desperate situation. But you could tell at the moment that they dropped the gloves, Nathan Beaulieu had a lot of regrets of dropping the gloves with Milan Lucic. Was the game over at that point?
Well, he poked the bear and the bear mauled him. And yeah, the game pretty much was, it really fired the Flames up, and we kind of didn't see them take the foot off the gas until the third period.
We've been hearing Paul Maurice asking somebody to step up, and I think Beaulieu tried to step up. You have to know you're not going to win when you take on Lucic, but I think he didn't fare as well as he wanted to. Credit to Lucic for not taking that last shot. But I think that I don't know if the game was over, Kevin, but I think that it got the Flames going earlier than they probably would have otherwise.
Lucic, I feel like, was one of the top three players for the Flames in this series. He played hard. He had a bunch of scoring chances, and he did score twice. One was overruled, saying that Dubé interfered with the goalie, which is fair. But, yeah, I wouldn't say that the game was over at that point, but props for Beaulieu stepping up and fighting Lucic, and even on the way to the penalty box, they slowed it down. You could see Beaulieu mouth to Lucic, "Thank you for taking the fight," because I feel like somebody needed to step up there for the Jets, and it turned out to be Beaulieu.
Last time I saw Flames fight that early was that big Calgary-Vancouver line brawl. I thought we were going to have something like that break out again.
Oh, yeah, when Torts ran to the beat up with Bob Hartley.
That's right.
That was a classic moment.
These dressing rooms are a little further apart than the one to the Dome, though, so it wouldn't have been as easy tonight.
Yeah, and there's social distancing going on, so I don't know if that would have also happened either. Would it be fair to say that this was the best Flames game this season?
One of.
Yeah.
I think the most important, and I would say probably the best complete effort from the lineup.
Yeah, like even in the third period, the team, like you knew that Winnipeg, their season's on the line. They're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at the Flames, and they weathered the storm well and didn't panic. They just did all the smart, simple plays that teams that need to take the next steps to gain confidence in winning. They did that, and they just eliminated them outright and collected the win.
It's funny. I believe that they did not play any sort of Flames hockey, and that was beneficial to them. I feel like they played hard. They were gritty. They finished checks, and they were able to come out on top because of how they played. And the game they played tonight has not been a stereotypical Flames hockey game, and I feel like that they did a great job in doing that. And yeah, it paid off. So if they continue that play from tonight going forward, I feel like they will be successful.
Devin, do you think that, I mean, you said it wasn't a typical Flames game, but I almost feel like the Flames this series have redefined what Flames hockey is. It's different than what we saw in the first regular season, if you will. But I think, like you said, if they can play this way for the rest of the playoffs and make this the new normal for Flames hockey, they can make it past the first round for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I feel like they're very much a perimeter team, and today they showed otherwise, and they were able to go hard to the net, and they played Lucic and that third line with Bennett and Dubé a shit ton, and they rode those guys, I feel like, in more critical situations than they did the top line. And having that type of play in playoffs is crucial for success. And I feel like the Flames of the past, maybe 3 to 5 years have not shown that grit and that determination. And today, they had little spurts here and there in the first 2 games, or first 3, I guess. And finally, game 4, I feel like they came with a complete game, and that's playoff hockey for you.
Would you guys agree that one of the stories here was that the Flames were able to fire back after game 2? I mean, from what we've seen from this team last year against Colorado, and even during the regular season, when the going gets tough, sometimes the Flames get going. And I think this year, I would say one of the stories is that we saw them come back in game 3 and play a complete game. We saw them keep that pressure on in game 4. I think that's one of the big stories in this round.
Yeah, and like if you look at this team, like just talent and depth wise, there are few teams that can match the Flames' depth in either conference. And if the Flames have everybody going each line, like the Sam Bennett line, if that continues to go, and then you have the Tkachuk line going, and then the Monahan line going, like you can just keep the pressure and wear the other teams out. And that's always been like my concern with this team, is that they have the talent, but getting everybody on the same page, pulling in the same direction has been the problem. And like, that's part of the reason why the Flames were the 8th seed heading into this, because of the fact that they were just always inconsistent throughout this season instead of showing what they could do. And like, this is more of the potential that this team has. And it's nice to see in the last 2 games them actually putting this kind of cohesive game plan forward. The more interesting thing, and the thing I'm most looking forward to once the playoffs begin, is can they continue pushing and pressing on whomever the team that they actually do end up matching against.
A better team than them.
Yeah, and can they, because all 4 of the teams that they could match up against are fairly talented and fairly deep. And I think the Flames have a little more depth than Dallas, but that's, they're the weakest, I think, of the 4. But it'll be interesting to see if they can actually go mano a mano against any of those teams.
For me, I think I think for me, it's the turning point of the year. I mean, the big story of the year looking back was obviously the firing of Bill Peters, and we don't have to get into that, but what Jeff Ward has instilled in this team, it wasn't there last year. The quote from last year that just keeps sticking in my head was when Derek Ryan said that this team wasn't mature enough to win. And now I feel like this team has found a level of maturity to win a big hockey game.
Well, like when this the Colorado series happened last year, I was actually kind of glad that they fell so hard on their face that they gave themselves a concussion. Because they could not have screwed up that series any worse than they did, and that had to have been a wake-up call. That that kind of play, just you can't get by and actually expect to win a playoff series if you play like that. And after game 2 when we did our show, that was why I was pissed off during that, because you were seeing a repeat of that type of performance, and it's you haven't learned anything. And in game 3 and game 4 they learned, and it'll be interesting to see if that continues.
Kevin, interesting thought on that I had. You mentioned, this team being immature. How much of that do you think is just who's stepping up as leaders? I mean, we've seen Lucic come to this team this year, a guy who is a longtime NHL veteran. We've seen Tkachuk step up as one of the more vocal guys who I would say is mature beyond his years because of what he's seen his dad do. How much of that do you think the maturity comes from? It's not Johnny and Monty running the room as the, kids just want to play video games or whatever. And now we've got some real veterans saying, guys, here's how we do it.
Okay, I have a sound effect that I want to do before I say this tape. So just give me a moment here while I find it, because this is
the soundboard.
We have my soundboard here. It's because this is a hot take I'm about to say. So this is going to explode. The Flames won the Lucic Neal trade. I think
easily, hands
down, won it. No question about it.
The third round pick is just a cherry on top.
Yeah, thank you, NHL. But
did you guys see the little prayer that we posted on our Twitter this week?
No.
Our Savior who art on the third line, Lucic be thy name.
Oh, that's great.
You can just see this team is so much better and so much more confident and so much more comfortable with a guy like Lucic in the lineup. There is a chemistry there. He's going to take terrible penalties. He's going to take his time getting down the ice. He's not this goal scorer. He's not what he was back in 2011.
But Kevin, he's exactly as advertised.
Yes, but he gives a crap. He gives a shit.
James Neal didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
The player that what Lucic brings to the Flames reminds me a lot, harkening back to 2004 with Chris Simon, where just that physical presence who could chip in a little bit offensively here and there, and just that other component that the rest of the team didn't have. And back in 2004, the Flames, I think having a guy like Chris Simon helped the team as much as anybody else, just because he was able to do things that basically the rest of the team couldn't. And I think that Lucic brings a whole different aspect to the game that, frankly, the rest, you couldn't see Andrew Mangiapane throwing hits like that, or Gaudreau or anything like that. So I think that difference will help immensely.
Well, and kind of who has taken over the room. I feel like it is a different place with a Lucic. I feel like Andrew Mangiapane, I'm not in the dressing room, but it feels like Andrew Mangiapane has taken more of a leadership role. I think Matthew Tkachuk is probably now the captain. And in a lot of ways,
he's the next captain here.
He's definitely the next captain. He's probably 0.2 on there. Backlund, what Lucic has done for Dylan Dubé what Sam Bennett has accepted that he's going to be as a hockey player.
I think Sam Bennett can be what he is because Lucic is here. I think last year they're trying to use guys like Bennett and Lomberg and insert other random grinder here to play that role. And even if you look at Lucic, he's so respected that after he beat the crap out of Beaulieu tonight, he got space in front of the net, which Lomberg never would. Like, he's the veteran guy who can be gritty and let Sam play his game.
Well, Sam grew about an inch or two this playoffs or this qualifying round because of Lucic and the way that he's played.
Sam always looks good in the postseason, though.
Always for sure. But I feel like he's even better and has matured a lot more in the past couple of years because it could be just even from this year from Lucic. God, I feel like I said before, I truly believe Lucic this series was a top 3 best player of the Calgary Flames, period. And, one other person that we're not talking about is Cam Talbot and how fucking great he was. Because I said it last podcast, and I'll say it again, that it's been a decade since we've had a solid goaltender. And we're not even talking about him. We're not even talking about him because he was solid. And, no Kari Ramo, no Jonas Hiller, no Mason McDonald, none of that bullshit. And it's refreshing not to talk about it, and here I am talking about it because it's a positive.
Matt and I chatted with Cam at rookie camp. He made an appearance just after we acquired him, and you could tell he was excited to be in Calgary. And I think now he's shown us he's excited to stay in Calgary because after that, you can't have Tree Living not give this man a raise if they're going to keep him. And I think it'd be tough to say he's going to walk and we're going to keep the other one. Like, I think now if he wants to be back next year, you got to bring him back.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think he's declared himself the number one. Yeah,
this will be unpopular, and I'll use it on your show and not ours, Kevin. I would actually start looking around to see if there is any market for David Riddick. I think there's enough 1B guys in UFA that if you can get some for Riddick, get the value and bring Cam back.
Hang on. Trade there. That's the explosion. But I actually went so far on this podcast. I've already said it. I don't think the Flames should protect David Riddick.
No.
Yeah.
I like Riddick, but he hasn't taken that next step, and he's adequate. It's like Kari Ramo. It's like, okay, you're there. Yeah.
I don't think they need to protect him. He's got 1 year after this, so he'll expire just before the expansion, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. But, like, if you were going to re-sign him, you don't need to protect him.
I think you'd sign him to a 1 year and then let him go, see if they pick him up as a UFA, and if not, bring him back. Like, he's the kind of goalie that if you want him, he'll be out there July 2nd. If free agency's back in July by that time, who knows?
Yeah. Whatever the July is. Yeah.
Maybe just have him as quote unquote, a throw-in with a potential, big trade with Sean Monahan or Johnny Gaudreau as well, and kind of sweeten that pot a little bit. And maybe we can get a little bit more because you have a 1B goaltender going the other way.
So Devin,
he's an all-star, so you can sell that too.
Yeah, true.
So is John Scott. Nobody got anything for him.
That's fair.
So, Devin, question for you. We've talked on our show a lot, too, about, before these playoffs and before everything shut down, trade Gaudreau, potentially trade Monahan. If this team can make it through round 1, do you think you can still, as Tree Living, say, we're going to trade those pieces? Like, I feel like if they don't make it through round 1, we'll see big changes. I think if they make it past that, it would be hard to say, let's trade some of these core guys.
Kevin, cue sound effect, please.
Oh, so that okay? Hang on. So watching on Facebook. Sorry, I have to flip this to the screen. I'll just keep the screen like this because I think we're going to have a lot of this anyway. So there.
If the Calgary Flames win the Stanley Cup, you trade Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan.
Then they've got some value.
They're going to be peak value. They're at the peak of their career. They've got a quote unquote team friendly contract. Especially Johnny Gaudreau being
and in a flat cap year, that's going to be more important than anything, I think.
Totally. And because I truly believe, look at this series. We won it on the Backlund line and the Bennett, Lucic, Dubé line, the period. And I'm going
to defend Gaudreau and Monahan here, though, because I think that they both played really well. There was there was one play Gaudreau did back check back. He lost the puck. He came back.
Yep.
He showed a lot in this series. Both of them I thought grew in this series.
Yeah. I with the Jets, like they have to respect Gaudreau and Monahan. Like if those guys were facing the Jets' second pairing on a regular basis, they probably would have scored even more than they did. And it gives the rest of the lines the time and space to feast upon the second and third pairing guys. And, it's one of those things that having those two guys helps everybody else as well. Like, even if they're not bringing it to the same extent that we'd like, it's a measure of protection, basically, for the other lines.
Last year against Colorado, those guys disappeared. I mean, who scored our goals? It was Mangiapane. It was, Dubé. And those guys need a chip in, but last year we got no scoring from the top six. I feel like even if they're not scoring, like Matt said, the way we want, I think right now, Gaudreau and Monahan are looking like top six forwards. And I think unless, like Devin said, they win the cup and they're at peak value, I think it might be tough for Tree to trade those guys if they keep playing the way they are.
Yeah. Unless you're getting a different guy that's a similar.
It would have to be a hockey trade.
Sort of like the Hamilton trade. Like you're getting different pieces but same value.
I also think just generally we're not going to see a lot of trades this offseason because I think nobody's sure what they're doing, what next season's going to look like. No cap goes up.
See, I disagree. I think we're going to be active. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff happening.
I agree with Kevin.
I just think with this flat cap, people are going to have to make some moves. Like nobody's talking about this, but I'm going to put this out now. I'm going to have to get the sound effect for this.
Yeah.
Get ready for this. The Penguins may have to look at trading Crosby.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
I'd say Malcolm before Crosby. Are you kidding?
Kevin, do we know when the Kraken are allowed to start making transactions? Because I feel like I agree with you guys. Some trades have to be made, but I feel like until Seattle can start absorbing salaries, a lot of stuff's not going to get done.
Well, I could see teams probably making already side deals with the Kraken already.
But I think in order to make some deals like a Crosby deal, no one's got that much money. And like, I think you're almost going to need Ottawa or someone who's got a ton of money to start absorbing money before any other dominoes can fall.
It's either that or you have, some hungry GMs that think that they are, just a move or two away from potentially winning, a Stanley Cup or getting in the playoffs, because you have these tweener teams like your Montreals who are up 2-1 against Pittsburgh, and you have Chicago who no one expected.
Move Crosby.
I did. Okay, then.
Yeah. Always bet against Edmonton. You'll be right every time.
Are we still supposed to call them the Blackhawks? Or are they just the Chicago hockey team now? I'm not sure how this works.
No, they're still the Blackhawks, but they're banning headdresses into the stadium from now on.
The Chicago team to be named later?
Yeah, maybe. But either way, you have those GMs, you have those teams that are like, right in between on the bubble of a playoff team that could just have one or two moves that could be made.
You're right. Or you've got a guy who's worried about losing his job and goes and picks up a name like Crosby thinking it'll impress the owner.
Insert Mark Bergevin.
Or even like a Florida who's like, we need someone in this market to get.
Honestly, I could see the New York Rangers picking up Crosby. Because, it's just like they did with Gretzky or Lindros or Bure.
We're so excited about the Flames win. We're talking about Crosby in New York.
Yeah.
I would even say, though, I'd say, about this whole Crosby talk, Malkin will go before Crosby. Malkin is proven to be more injury-prone.
Malkin, I think, is the better piece to pick up. Crosby's the better name value to sell tickets.
Yeah, it's one of those two. It's going to depend on what you want, because Pittsburgh could win the lottery. And if they get Lafreniere, what do you like? Why do you need Crosby or Malkin?
Talk about another kink to it, because whoever is out, it could be even friggin' Winnipeg Jets that could get Lafreniere. And, that player could turn around a franchise, period.
Yep.
So with this series, was it as simple as saying that Mark Scheifele got hurt early in within the first 5 minutes of this series, that this was the turning point? Or was
I don't think we can deny that, but I can't. I think we're selling the Flames short. I think that's the only reason they won. Going into this,
I think that the Flames would have won in 4 either way because the Jets' defense is just bad.
Kevin, I think even without that, what was the one thing that everybody said Winnipeg had on the Flames this series?
It was goaltending, and they didn't get it.
And who was the better goaltender?
It was Hellebuck.
You think Hellebuck was the better goalie?
No, well, going in, but it was clearly Talbot.
And I think that's the thing. The Flames rose to that occasion and outplayed Winnipeg at the one thing Winnipeg could have done. Well, I don't think the Flames would have had 6, goals in a game, 4 goals in a game, maybe against Winnipeg. I think we might have seen a lot more, 2-1, 3-2, maybe in overtime. But I think the Flames, I think we're selling them short if we just say it's because of injuries.
It's hard. I understand where you're coming from, Dan, but like you take out 2 of our best players of our top 6, like a Lindholm and a Tkachuk, or any one of those.
I think our
top
team's
6.
also deeper than theirs, Devin.
I agree full-heartedly, but at the same time, take any top 6 players, a line who can score 30. Mm-hmm. So Monahan, and then take a Lindholm out too.
I think it was definitely part of it, but I think we're selling the Flames short. Say it's the only reason they won.
No, I'm not saying it's the only reason. I'm saying like it was definitely a massive part of what transpired in front of our eyes in the past couple of days.
For sure. I was saying to Matt, when they pulled Hellebuck last game with 4 minutes left, I was worried he might have got hurt too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Heidi apologized to the Jets fans that we weren't trying to hurt you. It just happened. You guys made a glass or something.
They're the paper airplanes.
Yeah.
So
my turning point was when Tobias Rieder scored the shorthanded goal. Because that was because the bottom 6 got going, I think that was a huge difference in this series, was the Flames bottom 6 over the Jets bottom 6. Even if you move Adam Lowry down and Andrew Kopp down, if Scheifele's playing, I still think the Flames bottom 6 were much better than the Jets bottom 6. And Rieder scoring on that shorthanded goal, that established the fact that the special teams were in the Flames' advantage. It established the fact that the Flames forwards were able to dominate and completely abuse the Jets' defense with their speed and their strength. That to me that's my pardon the Sportsnet 960. That's the adjustment of the series to me.
Well, do you have a physio sponsor too?
But I'm not going to say this.
Or do you have a back cracking sound effect for that one?
No, I should get one.
Frankly, I like the Flames' depth. Like the third line, I think was better than any of the Jets' lines throughout the series, and the Flames just could roll all 4 lines, and the fact that we had depth chipping in, and the Bennett line scored, I think, 5 goals in this series, and the Backlund line scored 4. And
Flames had 11 different scorers score in this series.
Yeah. And the Jets, even if Scheifele and Laine were in there, I honestly don't see there being much of a difference, just due to the fact that they might have scored more, but just our depth was that much better.
I think one thing we're overlooking here is the defense. We talk a lot about the offense because it's a sexy part of the game. I think the Flames defense looked a lot more solid, as we knew they would. I mean, Winnipeg's got one NHL defenseman, but I think Calgary's defense really rose to the occasion. I think that was a lot of the reason the Flames did well tonight. They pushed the Jets to the edge. They let Talbot see that puck when it was coming towards him. I think we've got to give that defense credit. Devin, you're right that taking those 2 offensive guys out was definitely part of it, but I think the Flames' solid defense playing their way really kept this team in.
Okay, and the best defenseman on this team this series was not I'm not saying your Giordano was bad, but he was not the best defenseman in this series.
Who do you think was?
For the the best? I think it was Rasmus Andersson.
That's who I was going to say.
I think it was Rasmus.
I think he's taken a huge step forward in his development.
I have feeling the Brody or Hammer leaves at the end of the year, and I'm more than comfortable replacing one of them with Raz.
Yeah,
I actually think both of them are gone.
I would say that we probably keep Hammer over Brody. Brody needs to change the scenery here, and then don't forget about Valimaki jumping in the mix too next year. But yeah, Rasmus Andersson, he played amazing this entire series, and going back to our debate last episode. Sorry, Bearded Canucks 03, Sean. You're completely wrong. Pionk is not as good of a player as Rasmus Andersson. Rasmus Andersson is
really?
proven.
Somebody said that?
Yeah, my brother. Yeah.
Was this guy on the show?
Yeah.
Because Kevin, I was told no riffraff. That's why you haven't brought me in till now.
No, this is what I said. I said that the Jets. I said in comparison, the Jets D is not as bad as people thought that they were heading into Game 3, but they ended up having a debate about who was the top two. We agreed was Giordano and Morrissey in terms of the abilities of the defense. The debate we were having was Andersson and Pionk. And
you have one of those flashback things from these 80s sitcoms previously on the hockey podcast.
Yeah.
That's actually a great way to advertise with the 80s music. That's awesome.
It's beautiful.
We need the Ripley video effect that they had in 80s sitcoms.
Oh, I can use
with the harp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Sean's argument was Pionk, and our argument was Rasmus Andersson. His argument is Pionk has more points than Andersson now, and he knows that Pionk points isn't everything, but we've undervalued Pionk. I just think Ras has more grit. He's starting to get more like Matthew Tkachuk in terms of like just being comfortable with the way that he wants to play, and you can play him with anybody. They played him with foreboard a little bit tonight. Actually.
One thing I always look at with a young player, especially defenseman, is how have we seen them evolve? And Matt and I have seen Raz since he was first drafted here at rookie camp when he came in, out of shape and overweight, and just seeing how much he's evolved. And I'd say Pionk, he is what he is. He's not going to get better. And seeing how much Raz has evolved in, 4 years of the organization, it makes me think there's a lot more that we can go up from there.
Well, I'm going to have a hot take for once. Cue the sound effect.
Okay, hang on.
We've all had ours for the night. We're done now.
Yeah. I think that Rasmus Andersson will become on the same tier as like Roman Josi as a defenseman in the NHL. A top 5 guy in the entire league level.
A Norris candidate.
Yeah, that good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's the hottest take I think we've had all night.
Play it again.
That's
a double hot take.
Double. Yeah. I gotta need a double hot.
Double hot take.
Double hot. I think, like, you look at Andersson and Valimaki going forward as a pair. That's scary. Like, if Valimaki can get healthy.
I've said this in our show, though. We've yet to see Valley. He's like, half the goalies that we brought in, Parsons and guys like that. They're exciting, but we've yet to see a whole season hockey from them. I don't think we can get excited about Valley till he plays 82 games or close to.
I agree with that. Listening, there's one person that I really respect is Peter Labardius. And he said from day one of drafting Valimaki that he is a leader. He has that drive, that determination, and he wants to get better every single day. So I take Labardius at face value, and I truly believe that. So, I mean, until Valimaki shows us otherwise, I believe that he can be a top 4 defenseman in this league.
Yeah, I think he can too. He's got to get healthy first.
Yeah,
totally.
I think in like 2 years, the top pairing on the Flames will be Valimaki Andersson.
Talking about Andersson, though, I think we also have to give credit. I have in my notes here to his partner for most of the night tonight, and that's number 55, Noah Hannafin, who I thought Hannafin often doesn't stand out for the good reasons for the Flames, but I thought he stood out tonight as doing the right thing. And I think there's a guy who we brought in, hasn't got a lot of credit, has struggled a bit as a Flames defenseman. I thought this might have been his best pivotal game as a Flame.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. He wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't. I'm not as low on Noah Hannafin as everybody else, but this was his best game, and I see the arguments of why people are frustrated with Noah Hannafin, but I think he's a top 4 defenseman. I don't think he's a top 2 defenseman, and I think I've accepted that. I think people wanted him to be a top 2. He's a top 4 guy.
He's still younger, I think, than Raz. I mean, we're talking about, you know, we're talking about what Raz can do, and he seems like he's been around the league forever, Hanifin. But I think, and Matt's heard me say this, I don't like the idea that a lot of these first-round picks jump into the NHL right away. I think he's one guy who maybe got brought up too early. So I think, you know, he's good, and I think there's a lot of room to go up for Hanifin.
It definitely is, and like the potential is there, and he hasn't shown it, and he's at the beginning of his prime, quote unquote, for an NHL defenseman.
When we bought him, though, we bought him for the potential, not for the current.
Totally, and there's obviously some friction there in Carolina before we got him, and it could be a massive blessing because, you know, I was early on this podcast. I was shitting on him a little bit because I didn't see him. I didn't recognize him, but I do have to say that he played great tonight, and good on him. And if he can use this as a building block to build confidence, that will be massive for his development. Another
blue liner I thought looked good this whole series was Brody. And Brody's a guy that, again, Flames fans have crapped on in the past. He's had a lot of negative thoughts. I thought Brody, I don't have anything in my notes for this whole series of him blowing coverage or doing some of the things that we associate with TJ Brody. I thought he looked like a top 4. I don't know if he looks like a top 2, but I thought he looked like a top 4 guy this series.
He was solid. He was solid. And I also thought the third pair, Forbort and Gustafsson, were
adequate.
Fine.
Yeah,
they were fine. Gustafsson was a sneaky little pickup, and Forbort is doing his thing, and it's not spectacular, but he's not doing a lot of giveaways. And
I think if Hammer and Brody both leave, I think they'll try to bring Gustafsson in to fill the other spot.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like having a potential 60-point guy on your defensive pairing, and he'll be on your third defensive pairing, but you also have him on your top power play unit. I think that's massive.
And also a guy you can trust if we get an injury to jump up that.
I actually would like them to bring both Forbort and Gustafsson back, and that way you can slot Shillington and Valimaki in as the other guys, and you know it makes life a little bit easier because you can ease some of the younger guys in. Like you could start Valimaki in the farm if you need to, that kind of thing, and those two guys wouldn't be making very much money, so you could spend the extra couple bucks on, you know, a guy from Arizona, maybe.
One other guy I want to give credit to, while we're sort of giving props to Flames that looked good, I thought Jankowski looked good both games that he played this series.
Yeah, he was.
Again, for what he is, I thought, you know, Janko's another guy who's had up and down season. He replaced Ronaldo. You can't do worse than Ronaldo. But I think that Janko showed himself for the right reasons.
He's a very good penalty killer. And, you know, the rest of his game, like if it's mediocre, he's very good at killing penalties. And that, especially when we're going up against better teams, because we still don't know who we're going to face, that becomes more important than the difference in physicality that Ronaldo brings.
Here's Devin and I's frustration. Sorry, Devin, I jumped on you here.
No, you're good.
I don't understand what Jeff Ward's problem with Austin Czarnik is, and we don't understand what Jeff Ward's problem with Alan Quine is. I don't think they have a problem. Those guys were AHL players. Why have they beat one of the NHL guys for a job is the way I'd be looking at it if I was the head coach.
Yes, they have. I truly believe that. You have Alan Quine, who has proven to be a good, solid fourth liner who can play both ends of the ice.
Who would you put him in instead of?
Jankowski. Period. I feel like just the prowess of having a number one pick of Jankowski has put him ahead of everybody else. And Austin Czarnik, he was just coming on right before he got injured this year. Then he got sent down and didn't get called back up, and he was killing it down there. And I feel like
season in Stockton.
Totally, and I feel like he would bring a different dynamic. No offense to Dylan Dubé, because he was another player who had a great game today. And earlier in this series, the past 3 games, I've not been impressed by him, but he definitely showed up today. And I feel like having Czarnik over Dubé on the second power play unit would be very beneficial for that second unit.
I think it would be silly to take Dubé out of lineup at this point. I could see taking Janko out, but I think you would lose something if you take Dubé out.
Well, no, sorry. I'm just saying replace him on that power play,
okay.
not replace him in general. Because today he's proven that he's a playoff player.
For a guy who's playing, say, and I'd have to look at the ice time for tonight, for a guy who's playing 8 or 9 minutes a night, do you think maybe they're just putting Janko in to show him off so they can get some value from him in the offseason?
He's done after this year, isn't he?
No, he's an RFA.
He's an RFA, so
Okay.
they'll probably qualify him. But, I mean, I know where you're going, and I don't think there's anything wrong with – I like Quine. I don't know how Quine and Zarnik looked at camp. I mean, they had a good AHL season, but – I don't know how they looked at the camp coming back. Maybe there's some there that we don't know. Maybe they got hurt building a deck in the offseason or something. Like we don't really know. Those guys really weren't that visible from what I saw at the training camp.
Yeah. Jankowski got 10 minutes and 4 seconds of ice time, and he was on the penalty kill for 1:21.
And you know what? Going into a new series, maybe they'll play one of those guys in game one, just like they had Ronaldo in the lineup. I think, you put them in there, and then maybe there's some competition there. If, hey, Mark, you want to keep playing? Outplay one of these guys.
Yeah, I mean,
plus also you have to figure that the Flames are not going to be immune from the injury bug.
I was about to say that too, Matt. I think those guys are the first guys to come in when there's an injury.
yeah.
Knock on wood.
Touch on wood that there's not.
Does
So
my IKEA desk count as wood?
Full wood.
Sawdust with veneer on it?
Particle board, yes.
so now that we can do this, it was funny. I was yelling at someone on Oilers Twitter yesterday who was tied 1-1. We're already declaring who they could possibly play in the next round. But we can now do this for the Flames. Who do you want to play in the next round?
Dallas Stars.
Colorado Avalanche. We want payback.
I have two thoughts on this.
We're going to play St. Louis.
I think I want to play the Avalanche for, like Matt said, the idea of the Flames being able to say, can we do this or not? Can we get the payback? And, it's the Mighty Ducks too, right? We finally defeat our arch nemesis. But
Stick in Iceland.
That's right. I don't think we have a quarantine zone in Iceland right now, though.
Probably not.
So we can't play there. But of the teams, Kevin, that I think I would like to see the Flames playing, I think they'd have the best chance against. I think St. Louis.
The champs.
Oh, over Dallas. Why?
Yeah.
Bishop.
Bishop's part of it. I don't think St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis was the rags to riches story last year, right? They went from the bottom to the top. I think they had a hot year. I don't think they were the best team in the league, and I think their goalie carried them. And I don't feel that they are going to stay that good and that hot. I think the Flames have a chance to break that team down, and if we can see what they did against Hellebuck, I think they can do that against the hot goalie in St. Louis as well.
Yeah, I would.
I think Dallas is too heavy a team, and I think they're going to beat the Flames up like Colorado did last year, and I think that might be the end of the Flames.
It's definitely a good possibility. As of right now, the St. Louis Blues and the Dallas Stars have not won in their round robin play.
That would be ideally it would be one of those two teams.
Yes,
but Vegas, I think they could take. And I think that they'd get creamed by Colorado, but still, let's get the sheds out.
I think Calgary-Vegas would be the best series to watch as a hockey fan. Not necessarily as a Flames fan, because I think it'll be frustrating. But as a hockey fan, I think that could be the best one to watch.
Now, if we weren't in a bubble, I would say stay the hell away from Vegas because we can't fucking win there, and it definitely could be another Anaheim Honda Center issue. But yeah, I for me personally, I would want to see Dallas first, and then it's a tie between St. Louis and Vegas.
I want to see the Flames play the Avalanche only for the revenge from last year, but they're actually the team I'm the most scared of because I think they have more tools than Calgary does up and down the lineup.
And Nathan McKinnon, Nathan McKinnon is legitimately scary with a team behind him. That's the problem. Like, McKinnon is maybe 3 in the league now, depending on where you want to rank him, 2, 3, depending.
of all these teams, I think that Vegas has the worst goaltending tandem, and I compare them a lot to Winnipeg, where they've got one good guy and one sort of okay second guy.
Well, Fleury can pull it off in the playoffs, so
Fleury can, but Fleury's also getting older, and we've seen him run out of gas in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Fleury's been historically horrible in the playoffs, so yeah. It's one of those things that, like, with all three of the teams other than Colorado, I could see the Flames, if they play like they did in Game 3 and 4, I could see them winning that series. But it's going to be tough regardless.
And Matt, do we have any history that tells you that the Flames are going to continue that kind of play for 4 more games?
No. Those were the first 2 games that they actually played like that. So it's hard to say that they'll continue.
I mean, even during the season, right? We get 2 good games and they crap the bed for 3. Then they get a couple good ones and they shit the bed again. Like, I have no faith that we're going to see 4 more really good ones like that.
And that's why part of me really wanted to potentially lose this entire thing. And I know this sounds completely fucking stupid. And blow it up. But and have a chance for Lafreniere. But I feel like like Dan said, history does not show well for the Flames as of right now. And the past 2 games, the positives of the past 2 games is that you have a middle 6 of your second line and third line running amazing at all cylinders, and we still haven't seen the best of that top line yet. Lindholm, I feel like he still is lacking a bit of confidence. I've seen him hesitate on a couple shots when he could have been shooting, and he shot last game, and lo and behold, he fucking scores. So, and same with Johnny and Money. I feel like they're lacking a bit of confidence too. So unless they get going.
In this game, in the second period, I saw that line starting to play like themselves when they're actually rolling. Like, there was a couple of shifts there that they were just, how like Gaudreau, when he starts being slippery in the offensive zone and starts to create things, it was starting to look more like when they're actually doing shit.
I really think that a couple days rest is going to do the Flames a lot of good right now.
Yeah,
for sure. And I last game I was not too impressed with Johnny, and it was an unpopular opinion on our last podcast. But maybe even just that giveaway that he did and was able to back check and take the puck off of the Jets forward there. I think that might have got his shit in gear.
And Devin, when I'm evaluating guys, like, I wasn't happy with Johnny last game either, but I have to remind myself we got to evaluate them differently. These guys haven't really been on the ice since March. They're not to where they normally would be at the playoffs. Like, I think, come round 1, they have to be ready for playoff hockey. But I think Johnny was good enough for a guy that, hasn't played in a while.
Yeah, he got better every single game, and that's all you can ask for. And just hopefully he keeps on.
As long as he can keep going up or kind of stay where he is. But if we start to see him go down like he did against Colorado last year, we're going to have issues.
Yep.
And I have to say that, like, coming into this, the player I was most concerned about with the 4-month break was Milan Lucic. And so that's why I feel that he actually deserves my MVP of the series vote, just because of the fact that he was flying out there for him, which at the beginning of the season, he was kind of slow and sluggish and got going after about the 15-game mark. And I think that he was on the top of his game right from the first puck drop.
Yeah. I guess if I was to pick an MVP, I think to me it's Cam Talbot. I think stabilizing the goaltending, settling that controversy so far, being quiet in the net, and he made a couple of 10-bell saves tonight. But he's my MVP. He allowed Flames to.
And we were talking earlier about veterans. I can tell you, I've spent some time around this team and some time in this team's dressing room this year. Cam's one of those big leaders too. And again, another veteran that came in the offseason has brought some of that maturity to the room, if you will.
Is it a stark difference between him and Mike Smith?
I think if nothing else, Cam really owns losses and sometimes more than he should. There's been times we've talked to him in the room afterwards, and he takes everything on his own shoulders, which it's not always his fault, but he's one of those guys that when they lose, it pisses him off. And I think he gets other guys pissed off because of it.
And with Smith last year, he blamed it on other people, and he wasn't looking internally.
He'd blame it on other people, or sometimes he would just sit and pout. And, my parents always taught me, when you lose, figure out why you lost, right? And build on that, right? Yeah, you lost, but you can win the next time. You just got to do something differently. Figure out what that is. And I feel like Smitty often would just sit and pout, like you said, blame other guys, or just, oh, we lost. Well, what can you do different?
I want to go back to something that happened earlier this year. We talked a little bit of it. I mean, there was so much around that Flames Oilers, that double rematch after the Zach Cassidy and Matthew Tkachuk thing. And now, with the David Rittich stick flip and everything else, how much respect did Cam Talbot gain within the Flames team for stepping up to fight Mike Smith? He didn't have to do it, but he did it.
I don't know if he gained respect. I think he already came in with a lot of respect, but I think it just showed the guys that, if you're trying to pick one of the two goalies, I think that might have solidified to the coaching staff that this is your goalie who shows a little more leadership.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic at Tam to step up like that. And being in a dressing room, I would. Dan said it. He came with a lot of respect before, but he, with doing that, I feel like he gained a lot more respect on top of that. And the fact that he stepped up even after that and solidified himself to being the number one or the starting goalie was very much it was very prominent. And very, very happy to see that.
I think Talbot probably gained more respect with the fans because of that than he did in the room.
Yeah, probably.
Like, I think there's a lot of guys that still came in thinking Rittich is the guy, Rittich is the guy, Rittich is the guy. And I think Talbot maybe showed them, okay, maybe he is the guy there.
Yeah.
He brought a quiet confidence for sure. Last thing I want to get into, after game 2, we were not sold on Jeff Ward. I'm a bit more sold on him now. I must admit I feel inconsistent about him. There are times that I don't understand his lineup decisions. There's times I'm very confused of what he's doing. But he has somehow instilled in a way for this Flames. He has brought some maturity to this team that I don't think was there when Bill Peters was here. I think there was a more structure than when Bill Peters was here. I think that's in part why the Avalanche destroyed the Flames. I'm closer to say be more willing to give him the permanent head coaching position today than I was a couple of days ago. What say you?
I agree. I feel like going back to Milan Lucic, they won a cup in Boston in 2011, and I feel like he has given Lucic the confidence again to be the player that close to the player that he was back in 2011. Yes, that was 11 years ago, but I feel like in general, with being more of a player's coach, he has given me more confidence going forward. And you know what, if he wins another round, you can't knock him, and you can't not give him a contract because players, the team's playing for him.
I think the thing the Flames have become victim of in their whole franchise is going with the cheap option ever since they've been here. I mean, we saw guys like Playfair. We saw guys like who was the guy that was here when Savard was here? Don Hay, Glenn Gilbert. Like, they've often gone with the cheaper option more than the better option. I think that we've had a lot of associate coaches who come with experience, and when they brought in when they brought Jeff in, I thought, okay, a good guy to help anchor a young coach. And I think we're starting to see, like Kevin said, you got to start looking at him as potentially the guy, but I also think it's foolish to just hand him the job. I think you've got to, as Tree likes to say, go through the process, interview some other guys, figure out who's out there. But I think you definitely have to give Jeff an interview at this point.
Yeah, like I would still like to see how this team responds in the first round. Like if, like say it's a repeat of last year where they just get thumped by whomever they face. Well, then, like great, you got into the playoffs. In that case,
the easy scapegoat is the coach.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, but it's good for now, and just have to wait.
We see sometimes where the interim just loses the interim tag and becomes head coach, and I'm not ready to do that with Jeff yet. I think you interview him, but I want to see what else is out there.
Yeah, and there is some good options out there, but someone pointed this out here in Vancouver. Is how are you, like, this process of interviewing coaches right now is going to be, it's fascinating because how are you going to do it? How are you going to bring someone in?
Well, I don't think it's a job interview. Like, Kevin, if I was interviewing you for my company, I never met you. There's a very small pool of head coaches. And if we look, it's really just musical chairs. You know what you're getting in the guy. You could do a Zoom interview to figure out the rest of it. I mean, we all heard the story when Glenn came in that him and Conroy went on some weird hike and talked about philosophy of the team. Not required in a coach's interview. I mean, if we've got some experienced coach, pick an experienced head coach. You know what you're getting, right? I think it becomes, okay, tell me what you do in this scenario, that scenario. I think you can do that here. And there's enough guys around the league that can give references that I don't think you necessarily need to meet, unless we're pulling in an AHL or a WHL guy. I think if you're bringing in an NHL guy, you know what you're getting there.
Well, it's like if you're getting Laviolette, you know exactly what you're getting.
It's like draft interviews.
Yeah. I think if it's not Ward, it has to be an NHL guy. I don't think you're going to any other minor leagues or anything like that. You have to get a Gallant or a Laviolette or one of those, or a Boudreau or one of those guys. I'm not saying Boudreau, by the way, but you're going to have to get a veteran.
I think our staff is richer because Jeff is on it. And I guess my worry, if it's not Jeff, is would Jeff stick around as associate coach?
Really depends on if he gets any other offers too, right?
Yeah.
Or if Calgary even like leaves him out. I guess it's only a 1-year contract that he's on right now, but you do have to see what other coaches like the Gallants, the Laviolette,
and who else might lose their job.
Well, that's true too. But it's not so much what your philosophy is, because I feel like the NHL now is very similar in the copycat of, okay, well, these guys won, so we got to be like this. But it's more about the team philosophy and the team chemistry that you put together. Because if you bring in another Mike Babcock or a Bill Peters that are very hard on the players, I feel like you're not going to get enough out of them.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. My philosophy is knowing how that coach coaches. Is he a player's coach? Is he not a player's coach? You're not going to change that. And I think, you could do the Zoom interview with, what would you do with Johnny? What would you do with Monty? Like, I feel too often the Flames bring in a guy who has a system and he says, all right, here's how we're playing. Conform to this system. Ready? Go. And I think we need a guy who can say, here's what I have. How do I build a system around that?
Yeah. And it's not necessarily like you look at Columbus. Sorry, Devin. You look at Columbus, they don't have a player's coach. We saw pictures of Tortorella yelling at a player, and that player got a hat trick tonight, and they're one win away from.
Yeah. Elvis entered the building and stole the show.
Yeah. Any other topics that we need to touch on?
Not right now.
Okay. No, just looking forward to see who is going to be the unfortunate recipient of the Bennett and Lucic line.
Yeah, the schedule, the second round schedule is supposed to come out Friday, late tomorrow. So, according to what Ryan Pike is tweeting, so I guess we'll figure that out.
Which is kind of funny because it's not like they've got 30 buildings to schedule.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of, are you playing the 12 o'clock game or the 8 o'clock game? They can do the draft lottery and the game lottery. You guys will play, 8:30. Sorry.
Well, their game 5's scheduled Sunday, so because there's what
that's the sound effect you need, like the monster truck. Sunday.
We're back. Game 5. Well, depending on things. So yeah, I would suspect that probably it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday when the Flames start. So.
Yeah, well, if draft lottery's Monday, I think the league's making a big deal of that. So I don't think they want any games that day. So they're also going to need time for some of these teams to clear out, get out of there. Like, you don't stay in the bubble. They want to get them out of there. So, yeah, I think Tuesday, Wednesday is probably reasonable.
Although I'm just reading this tweet that Winnipeg wants to stay in the bubble as opposed to going to Winnipeg, and I don't know.
Can you blame them?
No, that's not how this.
If I had to pick between Edmonton and Winnipeg, I'd probably pick Edmonton too.
Yeah, I mean, fuck those mosquitoes over in Manitoba.
I'm kidding, Winnipeg. I'm sure you're allowed.
Or we just send them to Iceland like Devin wanted.
Yeah.
There's actually a Siberia team in the KHL. I've always wondered, do you get traded there or exiled there?
Both.
It should be a farm team. We're exiling you to Siberia. Get out.
I think the NHL should expand to Siberia just to have that team over there. Or we're going to exile you to Siberia.
Oh, man.
It's a loan agreement.
Loan.
Yeah.
So Devin and I were going to recap the Blue Jackets Flames game. Or the Blue Jackets Leafs game? Did you want to stick around for that, or?
I didn't watch it. I'll just make jokes about Toronto, so you don't want me here.
Yeah, same here.
Let me ask you this before I leave. What do you think the chance is that both Hub City hosts are out in the first qualifier?
I would expect it.
I think Chicago's out, or I think Chicago beats Edmonton.
Yeah, I think 4 games for Chicago.
I think there's going to be such a long. What I'm so fascinated about, to quickly get into Edmonton, that the fact that Dave Tippett did not go in with not only didn't start Koskinen, but didn't start Koskinen after going into the second period. I think that decision is going to sit with Edmonton for a long time.
Why? It's just another poor coaching decision in the recent history of the Edmonton Oilers.
That's true, but I think they were expecting something different.
Matt has said on our show, you could get an Xbox to run that team and you'd probably get better results.
Yeah.
That's a great take. I have not heard that before. That's just, fantastic.
Go on there, see what trades the AI will take on NHL 20 and be like, well, if it'll work there, let's call Boston. What are the auto-generate best lines? All right, we're doing that. Think of the money they could save. You know that old show with Howie Mandel where there's that weird guy who made a deal for a briefcase? That's what their coach is. You just look up and it's some Xbox running the AI.
Is it deal or no deal?
Please move McDavid to line 3.
Oh, God.
Goaltending in that series has been brutal, though, no matter who it's been. Like, I don't even think Corey Crawford's been that great.
But I'll be honest, those are two teams that I think if the league would have finished the way it went, I don't think either one of those teams would have been in the playoffs, Edmonton and Chicago. I think Edmonton would have fallen because I think their goaltending would have collapsed on them in the last month of the season. And Chicago, I don't think had the team to make the playoffs this year.
No, they didn't. Well,
they're only in because there's 24 teams.
Exactly, and that's same with Montreal as well. They're both sellers at the deadline.
And you can beat Edmonton, but Chicago's not going any further than that.
I don't know, man. On the back of Taves and Kane, and Kirby Dach has played very well too. So I don't know.
I love Kirby Dach. When we do the 2019 NHL redraft, I think Kirby Dach is going to be a little bit higher on that list than what he was picked.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think Chicago. You're right; those two names are there. But as we were talking about with Malkin and Crosby, I think those guys are starting to get past their prime. And I think if they can go anywhere, Devin, this might be the last year they can do it with that core. I just
don't see them getting swept or being done within 5 games. I think whoever they face, they're gonna cause fits for them.
I think they'll cause fits, but I think of any of those top 4 teams, they've got a deeper lineup, and a lot of them have the offensive firepower to take Chicago out.
Yeah, honestly, like if it's say Colorado that they face if they get through, like that's a 5-game series. Like I don't see Chicago getting much past like Game 5 against Colorado, but
maybe Edmonton saving Koskinen for round 2 or round 1, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. But you guys don't like Drake Caggiula or Alexander Nylander?
I like him. I just don't think I like a lot of Chicago's players like Doc. I just think that they're premature to be a full playoff team. I think those guys need a couple more years and a couple new pieces around them.
Yeah,
for sure.
But, it's Edmonton, so they got lucky facing the Oilers. Because, frankly, I think that the Oilers would lose to any of the teams that are in the they're just not a good team. If you can stop McDavid or hold them to a goal or two a game, you win.
Kevin, can I ask a Toronto question before we go?
Of course.
Do you think that Toronto's probably the team that has to do the biggest roster moves this summer?
Yep.
I think this is Kyle Dubas's biggest offseason as a general manager.
And do you think he can find a buyer to take some of those deals in a flat cap era?
Absolutely. I think they can. I think if you're looking at Willie Nylander, you got who wouldn't want a Willie Nylander?
I just don't know that Nylander's the guy they try to move.
Who do you think they move?
Stamkos.
Marner. Stamkos. Tavares, you mean?
Or sorry, Tavares. Yeah.
You think you're trying to move Tavares?
I always get those two messed up. I think Tavares, like we were talking about earlier, has the name value for some GM.
At that cap hit? Yeah. That's a massive one.
We've seen a lot of bad cap hits move.
Yeah, I mean,
that's also why I think Toronto might want to try and move it to get out from it.
I mean, good possibility. If they can, great. And then
it's going to cost you a couple picks at least to go with it, and a bunch of other stuff. But
you're telling
here's a trade for you: Tavares for Crosby.
Let me go ask the Xbox. We'll see if the Oilers would do it. Hold on.
You're going to trade Tavares 2 years after you've signed him?
I don't think they're going to have much choice. It's got to be one of their top guys, and I think Dubas wants to keep the young guys.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to have to move one of those four-headed monsters there, with Matthews, Marner, Tavares, or Nylander, I'd say that you trade probably Nylander over Tavares. But I mean, I don't put it past you. I think that's a very hot take.
Do you move Mitch Marnie? You guys saw that clip?
Yes, yeah. It's fantastic. I do not move Mitch Marner because he can be the engine for that team.
I just think with Toronto, they finally got some young talent there, and I think they're going to do what they can to keep their young talent.
They definitely need to find some defensemen.
And
it's
that's
they
what
need
trade for.
Yeah, they need to get two defensemen that are actual, defensemen,
and if you can find a team that needs forwards, you could probably do two defensemen for that and come up with roughly equal money if you're willing to take on an older defenseman.
It's true. So I'm just looking at Tavares' contract. He has a no movement clause.
Is it full no move or limited no move?
So it looks like a full move or full one. Yeah. So
all right, so he's not going anywhere.
He's going to be in his Leafs PJs forever.
And someone to take that $11 million, someone's going to have to retain.
You put a C on him. It's going to be tough. It's going to be – that's just a –
Well, I had said something similar when Vegas was coming in, but I said, if you're Seattle, you need to put a big name on the marquee there. Do you try to take on a big name and big contract like that just to put a face on the marquee? I think that's a big reason why Vegas took Fleury when they did.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And so
gives you a name on the marquee.
Would you protect Tavares?
No. But if he's got no move, if it's same rules as last time, he'll have to be protected.
Yeah, true.
Because the rules last time were no moves were auto protect.
Yep.
Yeah, I just there's definitely something missing in Toronto, and it's just the way that they've, and I think it's Lou Lamoriello. I think they completely missed Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah.
I also think that Sheldon Keefe is not the right coach for that team. Sort of like we were talking about with Jeff Ward. I think there is a time and a place for a seasoned NHL coach.
Yep. With the younger team, you probably want that veteran presence.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to let you guys talk Toronto.
Yeah. I got to run too.
All right.
Thanks for having us on, Kevin.
Yes, we will reconnect when the series starts on next week.
And I'm going to plug for us before we leave.
Yeah,
New Fireside Chat episode will be recorded this weekend. If you want to hear Matt and I talk, we generally do a show once a week when the Flames are playing. You can listen to us wherever fine podcasts are sold, just like this one, or at our website, firesidechat.ca. Subscribe through iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever you want, or go to our website, sign up for our email list. I'll email you as soon as a new episode comes out. So if you're not tech savvy, don't know how to get a podcast, go there, sign up for an email. I'll email you every episode when it comes out right to your inbox. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at Fireside Podcast, or on Facebook. We're Fireside Chat, or facebook.com/Fireside Chat. So we hope everyone will give us a listen as well.
Absolutely. And thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Yeah.